if you knew your fate would be sealed with a thud of the gavel. It is only reasonable to be compliant and be on your best behavior. Those that presume they are above the law get to face the harsh slap of reality, from unruly misdemeanors to hardened multiple count criminals. Here are the top 5 most disrespectful defendants. Number 5. Michael Ray. The man here is facing 4 charges, including criminal trespassing, failure to wear seatbelts, second-degree assault, and making a terrorist threat. Under normal circumstances, a bond or a bail is a quick proceeding, especially if the defendant is quite cooperative, but not Michael Ray. The prosecutor suggested a bail amount for Ray based on the crime in his history. Ray might feel $25,000 is too high, but sarcasm will not get him a reduction, and the judge lets him know. Ray just had his bond doubled, but as he re-enters the hallway, he has something else to say.
Bring him in. I'm holding him in contempt.
He didn't stop there. According to court officials, the defendant also gave her the middle finger. It is obvious that Ray does not think the authority of a judge should be respected. The judge gave him 100 days in jail. She was gracious and did not even hold him in contempt. If she did, it would definitely not be undeserved. Michael Ray could have just walked away without making matters even worse, but he took the highway to the penitentiary. What started out as 4 serious charges have now grown into a grand total of 10, all in the span of approximately 3 minutes. What's the lesson? If you find yourself in a pit, stop digging. Number 4. Tobias Giggles Roman. Tobias Roman is to be arraigned in Bakersfield, California. The 27-year-old was charged with multiple crimes, including attempted robbery, threatening with intent to terrorize, exhibiting a deadly weapon, and allegedly stalking a female employee at a shopping mall. If you've ever met a dangerous creep, here's one. The judge orders him to stand, but he has shown reluctance. His hearing is off to a rocky start. Once on his feet, the judge then asks a standard procedural question. Judge Charles Bremer will have none of his misdemeanors and gives the defendant a final warning. The defendant should be quiet unless asked to speak. Least of all, interrupt the judge. For a second, it appears Giggles might quiet down. But as it turns out, his silence is short-lived. As he is being let out of the courtroom, Roman tries to chip in something of a punchline, like his life is a movie. Except the judge heard that comment loud and clear. Tobias Roman later pled no contest to the charge of threatening a public official and was sentenced to 8 months in prison. Of his original charges, all were dismissed, except for threatening with intent to terrorize. He pled no contest and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Why the long face? Giggles. Number 3. Austin Boone.
Austin Boone?
Here in Louisville, Kentucky, 20-year-old Austin Boone is appearing on the charges of speeding and possession of drug paraphernalia. Boone appeared before court, replying to the judge like he kept a score sheet for savage responses that he would boast of on Twitter.
And she told me, you say guilty or not guilty.
Well, if you plead guilty, then I can give you the plea agreement that you made.
Yeah, that, whatever the agreement was.
Okay, the agreement was to plead guilty and get a $44 fine plus traffic school plus a $100 fine on the drug paraphernalia. You would pay that today and then go to traffic school so that you would not get the 6 points on your license. Is that what you understood? Okay.
Boone had been prepped by his attorney, but when Judge Stephanie Pierce Burke hits him with a tough question, a bailiff notices a problem with Boone's courtroom attire. The defendant remains rude
Just how does it go?
and flippant, so the bailiff brings Boone's sagging pants to Judge Burke's attention.
Yeah. Your pants need to be up when you're in a courtroom.
They are
Not.
Sir, up.
While some people in the courtroom found the sagging pants crackdown amusing, Judge Burke does not. Austin Boone might be laughing now.
They're up.
He's got a belt on, Judge, and they hang around his.
They're up. I don't
Okay,
understand what the
that's
problem is.
inappropriate. They need to be around your waist, not below your bottom.
Put your pants up, you've been just.
Not below your bottom.
I mean, it's my all y'all see my basketball shorts. It's not even in my boxers.
But when he's called back in front of Judge Burke 15 minutes later, she reminds him who holds the gavel in the courtroom. After all,
Do you understand that you're in a court?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you do what the judge says, and that is pull your pants up around your
What do you
waist.
want me to do?
Pull your pants up. If you have to tighten your belt, you're gonna be an adult when you come to court. Do you understand?
Yes, but right now I'm trying to leave court.
she was gracious enough to let him have some time in the jury box to put himself in order. But rather than use his time in the jury box to pull up his big boy pants, Austin Boone took them off instead. He now appears to be wearing just the athletic shorts that were underneath.
By removing your pants, it was extremely poor judgment. Okay, I'm holding you in contempt. I'm gonna sentence you to 7 days to serve for direct contempt of court.
Are you serious?
I'm serious,
Why?
because you don't know how to act
They
like a
couldn't be
grown-up.
high enough for you, so I took them off.
Austin Boone served 2 full days in jail for the contempt of court charge. As for his original charges of speeding and drug paraphernalia, the judge honored his plea agreement, ordering him to attend traffic school and pay $178 in fines.
But what about my pants though?
Number 2, Isaiah Garden-Hire. This is Mount Pleasant in Michigan, where Isaiah Garden-Hire is to be arraigned. The 40-year-old was arrested after reportedly going on a 2-day crime spree that forced an entire community to shut down. Garden-Hire had reportedly sexually assaulted his girlfriend in her home and then murdered her 13-year-old daughter before fleeing to a nearby apartment complex. There, he allegedly took a man and woman hostage, sexually assaulted the female, robbed them, and stole their car. After all this, he did something strange. Garden-Hire turned himself to the police. But now, as Judge Sarah Spencer Noggle reads the long list of charges against him, Garden-Hire appears to nod off. A short while later, he yawns audibly, trying to be sarcastic and distract attention from the hearing. The judge pays little attention to him and asks the prosecuting attorney, David Barbary, to weigh in on Garden-Hire's bond conditions. The prosecutor also mentions that Garden-Hire was actually out on bond for a separate criminal sexual misconduct case in another county when he went on the alleged 2-day crime spree. Now he's in for another crime. How many bonds is it going to take? The prosecutor adds,
Looking at Mr. Garden-Hire's criminal history, it's pretty significant. His criminal history consists of
in this case, due to the fact that Mr. Garden-Hire is both charged with murder and the fact that he was on bond at the time the allegations occurred, Garden-Hire interrupts.
Charge her with murder because she's the one who did it.
He accuses his ex-girlfriend of murdering her daughter. The hearing was ultimately cut short due to Garden-Hire's behavior. Isaiah Garden-Hire is being held on a $3 million bond for 12 criminal charges, including home invasion, first-degree criminal sexual misconduct, and murder. What do you think of this law in the state of Michigan? Let us know in the comment section below. Number 1. Camia Gamet. Meet Camia Gamet. In the Jackson County Courthouse, Camia behaved like she had no remorse over the killing of Marcel. As Marcel's family read out a letter to Camia in court, she rolled her eyes and started laughing. In 2013, the 31-year-old Camia Gamet and 38-year-old Marcel Hill were living together in Jackson, Michigan. They were an odd couple because they had very different and opposite personalities. People described Marcel as friendly and childlike. He only had a high school education and worked at a fast food joint, even though he suffered from physical disabilities, mental illness, and cognitive impairment. Camia, on the other hand, would have been just fine if she had not resorted to drug use and had a violent and abusive nature. She had a difficult childhood and had lived in 13 different foster homes. She had also been arrested for domestic violence for assaulting a previous boyfriend. So it was interesting that she ended up with Marcel, who had a much nicer temperament than Camia. Interesting and unfortunate. Due to their very different personalities, Camia and Marcel's relationship was extremely difficult since she would often target Marcel. In one incident, she stabbed him with a knife and then stitched up his wound by herself. Marcel never reported the incident to authorities. In another incident, Camilla assaulted Marcel and punctured his lung. Again, Marcel never reported her to the authorities. Yet again, in a third incident, Camilla hit Marcel in the head with a hammer. The authorities charged her with assault and domestic violence, but the case was dismissed when Marcel refused to press charges against her. This would end up in grave consequences for Marcel. How many more signs does Marcel need? Unfortunately, on the 18th of May 2013, Camilla murdered Marcel in a fit of rage. A neighbor called 911 after hearing sounds of fighting at Camilla and Marcel's home. Meanwhile, Marcel had been bludgeoned and stabbed to death. He had been stabbed 11 times, and his torso was cut open with a knife. Camilla had no injuries. Camilla claimed that she killed Marcel in self-defense because she thought he was an intruder or an assailant. Her explanation was that she was asleep but woke up when she heard the sound of shattering glass. It was pitch black in the house and she couldn't see, so she grabbed a floor lamp and started swinging it at the intruder. In the dark, she was able to get hold of a knife and use it on the intruder until he fell down. She only found out that she had killed Marcel after she turned on the lights.
You gutted him like a fish in that apartment too. You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead.
That was Judge John McBain. Eventually, the jury convicted Camilla of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Judge McBain even remarked that it was one of the worst cold-blooded murders that he had ever seen. No one could have said it better in court than Marcel's aunt, Diana Banks Joyner.
Remember Marcel and the love you had for him as we ask God to teach us to learn to forgive you because there is no love.
Yet there she was, rolling her eyes. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing content. See you on the next one. Bye for now.